listening to From the Father's Heart podcast, where we empower you to live your best life by falling in love with a real God and connecting you to personal testimonies of everyday people. I'm your host, Adrianna Guadalupe of adriannaguadalupe.com, and I pray that you're encouraged as you listen to this episode. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to episode number 4. I'm so excited to be here with you guys to kind of wrap up our talk of the battle for belief. This is our last part, so this is going to be part number 3, where we talk about our beliefs about other people. Just a little recap from our conversation from the past couple episodes. We've been talking about how our belief system is kind of like the center of everything we do, everything that we say. It comes out of what we believe, and if we believe the right things, we tend to live our best life, and if we start believing the wrong things, we tend to not live our best life. So our belief system comes down to pretty much 3 things: what we believe about God, what we believe about ourselves, and what we believe about other people. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what we believe about other people, how it plays a role in us living our best life and moving forward, and all that good stuff. I'm going to talk about my personal testimony. So if this is your first time ever listening to my podcast, just a quick disclaimer here. This is not a Bible study. This is not a debate. This is just me telling you stories about real life things that I've gone through so that you can maybe get inspired and get some hope, maybe get some revelation in your life, some insight, so that you can just live your best life and fall in love with God. The first point that I want to talk about today is pretty much the lie that I used to believe about people. So I have 2 lies that I'm going to share with you just for the sake of time, because I know that if we get into this conversation about what we believe about other people, we can go on for days and days and days, because I really believe that there is this overarching battle that we go through with people that kind of stems out of this battle for belief, and we can just keep diving deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And of course, I don't want to be here all day with you, but I do want to hit at least 2 points that kind of were pivotal for me in my life as soon as I realized that these were lies that I believed, and how I kind of overcame those lies. And maybe through this story, or these stories, I should say, you can get some insight on your own life and how you can overcome maybe some of the lies that you've been believing in your own life. So the first lie that I used to believe about people were that people are the problem. And I used to believe this because if you listen to my prior episodes, you know that I had some issues with friendships in the past. And because of that, I started hardening my heart a little bit towards people. I wasn't really open to new friendships or new relationships. It took me a while to kind of grab a hold of the concept that I needed people in my life. I started isolating myself. I started believing that the only person I really needed in my life was my husband, maybe my immediate family, and that was about it. When I started going through my healing journey, God started really showing me people that I could trust and that I could open up to and share my story with, and know that they weren't going to judge me or criticize me or make me feel like a horrible person because of the things that I've been through, but they were really going to understand what I was going through, and they've kind of helped lead me in this healing journey. But I used to believe that people were the problem. I used to believe that if I got into too many relationships with people, as far as friendships are concerned, or even working relationships with people, that eventually I was going to get hurt. People were going to hurt me. People were never going to look out for the best for me. I had to look out for myself. And ultimately, people were the problem in my life. If I had less people in my life, I would have less problems. That's what I believed. And it took some time for me to really overcome this in my own life, what I really realized is that people are facing the same battles that I am. Sometimes we go through life and we start seeing people as a problem. So we think that they don't understand my stance. They don't understand where I'm coming from. They don't understand the problems that I face. They just don't get it, right? So we start seeing them as the enemy. Like, you're my enemy. I can't work with you. I can't talk with you. I can't have a relationship with you because you don't get it. You don't understand. And we never really open up to people because we automatically think that they're not going to get it. That's where my heart was. I was like, people are just not going to understand my point of view. They're not going to understand the way that I think or the way that I love or whatever. It was really hard for me to open up and to even work with people. So I remember having this coworker that came in after probably like a year or two of me being in the position that I was in. My other coworker had left and she came in and took over this role, which meant that she worked side by side with me on a daily basis. And I was perfectly okay with that, but she had a very different personality than me. And it was very difficult to get along with her when I was working because I didn't understand her. And I remember having an incident with her one time where she like put papers in my face the wrong way. And I just had to like take her to the side and talk to her because I was like, listen, you don't do that to me. We're not going to do that. You're not going to throw things in my face and whatever. So we had talked about it. But after that instance, I was like, all right, God, I'm trying to be a good Christian woman. I am trying so hard to just have peace with this woman, but I just can't stand her. She's getting on my nerves. She's just under my skin and I just don't get it. So I prayed about it and I was like, you know what, God, I don't want to have tension at my job because I'm there, most of my days are at my job and I just don't want to have tension when I go to work. I want to enjoy myself when I go to work. I didn't spend all this time in school and all this money on degrees and licenses and all this stuff just to go to work and be miserable. So I prayed about it and I was like, you know what, God, maybe there's something about her life or her upbringing or just the way she thinks about things or how she does things that I don't understand. So I prayed to God and I was like, God, help me to see her the way that you see her, because I know that you love everybody. I may not understand why, but I know that you love everybody and I just need you to show me her in your eyes so that I know how to deal with her. And I kid you not, I went to work and it was almost like she just started opening up to me about, her life. I mean, we had a lot of like downtime to like talk and it literally was just me and her. There was no other coworkers with us on a daily basis. So after a while, she just started opening up to me and sharing with me about her family and like, just different things that she believed. And I started to realize that she was a perfectionist, just like I was. But in her mind, it was like other people should kind of know what the next step is without her telling them. So in the way that I work, I'm like, if you need me to help you, you just say what you need and I'll help you. But she didn't really operate that way. That's not really how her mindset was. So in her mind, it was like, you should already know what I need. I shouldn't have to tell you. So just from talking to her and getting to know her better, I kind of realized that was just how she was. And so I adapted to that. And sometimes we don't do that. We don't adapt when we find out that people are different than us in the way that they believe things should be handled or things should be done. Sometimes we're like, oh, well, no, you shouldn't do that. You should do it this way. You shouldn't think that. You should think it this way. And I've learned in life that it's easier to see something and adapt to it than it is to try to change somebody, because at the core of who they are, you're not going to change them. People have to decide if they want to change their behavior or if they want to change the way that they think about something. But ultimately, you can't change who people are. And so I realized that it's much easier for me to just learn about my coworker, learn about how she functions and how she does things so that I can help her better. It wouldn't be such a resistance there. There wouldn't be so much tension between us because I understand how she thinks about things. So instead of trying to force her to adapt to what I believe or what I think is the right way to do things, it's so much easier if I just learn about her and help her. That's kind of the issue that comes up when you believe that people are the problem. You don't want to adapt. You don't want to help people. And I'm probably getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but ultimately we're all created to help each other in some capacity. I was made and created in the image of God for others. I wasn't just created for myself so that I can have this glamorous, great life and, I don't know, be oblivious to everybody else's feelings or to others' needs. I was created to help people. When you start believing that people are the problem, you don't want to help people. You want people to just adjust and adapt to what you believe because you're so firm in what you believe and the way that you do things that you don't really care about how other people feel. So you don't care about their opinion. You don't care about the way that they think about things. You just want them to do things the way that you want them done. And then you find yourself in these situations where everything is just tense all the time. You're never happy. And you're always seeing people as the enemy. And you're always getting this resistance in your relationships, even if it's not in a working relationship. Maybe it's in a friendship or a relationship with a family member, but you always find yourself in these situations of tension because everybody is focused on themselves. Everybody wants things done the way that they want them done, and nobody's caring about each other. I learned in that season of my life to care more for my coworker. God kind of illuminated her character to me and really showed me that she has a good heart. She may not always be able to demonstrate things with sensitivity, but she had a good heart and she just wanted the best out of our work situation. She wanted to do her best. And sometimes we just have to try to understand other people so that we can help them and ultimately do our best. We're not here just for ourselves and for our own gains. We're here to help other people. And in doing so, we need to learn about other people. We need to care enough about who they are and why they think the way that they think, and really do some investigative work behind the scenes so that we can understand people's character and be able to adjust so that we can fulfill our purpose. One of the points that I want to make is nobody's asking you to change who you are, right? So I see both extremes in this. I see people who believe that people are just who they are first time they make an impression. So once a cheater, always a cheater. Once a liar, always a liar. And that's how they see people. They see people for that initial interaction that they have with them. So if they interact with somebody and they lie to them, they're always going to see that person as a liar. And it doesn't matter what they do down the road. In their eyes, that person will always be a liar. And then there are people on the other side who are anybody can change, right? If you lie today, doesn't mean you're going to lie to me tomorrow. If you hurt me today, you might heal me tomorrow, right? So I'm kind of in the middle when it comes to that perspective. I believe that there are some things about you that are core things that will never change because that's how God created you. And then there are things that can change, like what you believe and what you do and what you say and how you say it. Those are things that people can change based on, what you believe or your experiences or things that you've been through. But then there are things that make up who you are as a person. So for example, I am a very direct person. That's just who I am. It's not going to change. But the way that I approach certain situations and certain people, I definitely have control over that. And I need to adapt to that to be able to be sensitive to people's feelings. So, for example, I had a friend who I was really honest with about some things, and she stopped talking to me for a while. Not necessarily because I told her the truth, but because it was, very direct, and she wasn't used to having a friend that, had those kind of direct conversations with her. And, after some time, we talked about it, and I realized that, even though I am a direct person, I'm never going to apologize for telling somebody the truth, but I can apologize for the way that I bring the truth to somebody, especially if I know that they're a little more sensitive than I am. And I'm not going to know that if I isolate myself and I think that people are always a problem. I could have easily just looked at her and been like, well, that's your problem. Like, you can't accept the truth the way that I say it, then you're the problem. I'm not the problem, right? And I was like that for a long time before having this friendship. But I've learned a lot about how to just be a little more sensitive about the way that I approach people. Not that I wouldn't be direct with somebody, but I can still be direct with people and still be true to who I am as a person, while also considering how I'm approaching a person or how I'm approaching a situation and what I'm saying, how I'm saying it. Doesn't mean that I'm going to alter the truth or not be direct about the truth. But when you learn about people and you take that time to understand that you're here to help people, not to hurt them, you kind of take that into consideration more. So you don't change who you are. Like, I didn't change who I was for her. I definitely, told her, like, we're going to have more situations like this where I'm going to tell you the truth pretty directly, but you just have to let me know if what I'm saying is a little harsh, because I don't see it as harsh. I just see it as me telling you the truth. But you have to communicate that to me if I'm being too harsh, because then I need to learn how to speak to you, how to still be direct, how to still tell you the truth, but considering that you might be a little sensitive to the way that I say things. People are not the problem. People were always meant to be the solution. God didn't create us just to be a problem, just to be a headache, right? So we can't see others as the problem. We have to see them as being part of the solution. And a way that we do that is by getting to know them and praying to God that we see others through His eyes, because we don't know the whole story. I don't know what other people are going through, and I won't know until I ask or until they're open enough to share their story with me. So I can't assume that, somebody is acting a certain way because they want to, or they say things a certain way because that's just who they are. I have to really take the time to get to know people, so that I can understand where they're coming from. And when I understand where people are coming from, I understand that they're not the problem. It's really what they believe and what's ruling in their life at that moment. So the Bible says that, our battle is not against flesh and blood, but powers and principalities and yada, yada, yada. So that means to me that people are not the problem. It's not this specific person or that specific person that's a problem in my life. It's actually the principles that they believe. It's the power that they give to, whatever. So in my life, I try to give all power, all control to God and to Jesus Christ, right? So when I got saved, one of the things I said is, Jesus, you are now the Lord over my life. So I surrender everything back to God. Some people don't, some people let other things rule over their lives. And because of that, they react and they speak out of those things that they have given power to. So we have to remember that people are not the problem. It's really what's behind that person that can be the problem that's causing tension in our lives or in our relationships or in the situations that we're facing. And when we start to realize that, we start taking the time out to really get to know people so that we don't pray against people, right? I'm not going to sit here and say, oh God, I take this coworker out of my job, right? Take this person out of my life or whatever. I'm going to pray against the powers and the principalities that are active in their life that are causing them to be disruptive or to carry out a lie in my life, right? Because now what they're believing, the lies that they're believing, come and start trying to play a factor in my life. So I have to pray against those things, not against the person, but against those things, so that their beliefs can change, their mindset can change, their actions can change, the way they speak to me can change. And when I pray against those things, those powers, those principalities that are active in their life, that's when I start seeing the change in the person, not when I pray against the person, because the person is not the problem. Second point, I'm going to have to dish this out really quick, but the second lie that I used to believe about people is that I can fulfill my life's purpose without people. I know it sounds a little obnoxious. It sounds a little self-centered. But what I've learned about lies is that usually there's a central lie that kind of gives fruit or starts giving birth to other lies. And you start living a whole lifestyle around this central lie, and you start believing all these other little lies that come out of it. So my central lie in this story, in this predicament, was that people were the problem. So because I thought people were the problem, I was like, well, I can live my whole life and my whole purpose in life without people. Like, I can do this all by myself, and I can still love people from a distance, right? I can still bless others. I'm like laughing now because it's kind of ridiculous thinking about it. But like, I could still be a people person without having people in my life, without actually having relationships with them, without working with them on an intimate level. Like, I really believe that. And it's kind of ridiculous because, first of all, like I said before, we weren't created for ourselves. We were not created just so that we can live our life and find fulfillment in and of ourselves. I am broken. I am empty in some places. And yes, God can fill those voids, and God can heal me, and God can do all these things. But the way that God moves in my life the most is through other people. And that's how he created mankind to be. When he created man, man told God, this is great that I'm in here all by myself, all these animals and stuff, but I'm missing something. Like, I need something else. And God saw that it wasn't good for man to be alone, so he created woman from him, right? God knows that we're not meant to be alone in life. We are not meant to fulfill our purpose here on earth by ourselves. And so he puts people in our path, in our lives, on purpose so that we can fulfill the purpose and the calling on our life. When you realize that people are not the problem, and you start taking the time to really get to know people at their core, at the center of who God has created them to be, you start realizing that they're meant to help you, and you're meant to help them so that your purpose in life can be fulfilled. I would not be doing this podcast if I thought that I could do life without people. I literally am putting my life out here for the world to listen to because I know there are people who have gone through or are going through the things that I have gone through and who need to hear my story because they need hope and they need clarification and they need restoration in their life and they need some things to just be redeemed. And that's not going to happen if they're by themselves, thinking that they're all alone, thinking that they're the only ones that are going through this situation in their life. So if I didn't have this understanding that the only way I can fulfill my purpose in life is if I have other people involved, I would never be doing this right now. I would not be sharing my story with people. I just want to end with this. The Bible says that, it talks about how can you love God who you haven't seen when you can't love your brother who you have seen. And I remember reading those verses and really feeling like a conviction in my heart, because at that point in my life, I was like, God, I don't know how to love people anymore. I loved people really deep, really hard for a long time, and I got hurt, and I don't want to get hurt anymore. And one of the things that God told me was, you'll never live out your purpose if you don't walk into unknown circumstances. So if you don't take a step into the dark, you can't be the light. A lot of us just want to be the light in the light. We want to be able to see things really clearly and to know everything ahead of time and to be prepared for, whatever is going to come. And sometimes life is just not like that. We don't know what's going to happen if we open up to people, if we start talking to people about our lives or sharing things with them. And I don't think that that's totally bad. I don't think it's wrong. I don't think it's a mistake that God made. I think he wants you to take some steps of faith, because that's what they are. Stepping into new things and new relationships with people is really hard, especially when you've been hurt before, because you're always on edge trying to protect yourself from being hurt. But if you isolate yourself and you never open yourself up to the unknown, you will never fulfill your purpose completely the way that God wants you to. So I just want to encourage you with this. You need to believe the truth about God in order for you to understand who you really are. And in order to understand who you really are, you need other people, because people are the accountability factor for you. They're the ones that are going to kind of tell you when you're right, when you're wrong, when you're hurting other people unintentionally, when you're doing good, when you're fulfilling your purpose. There are friends of mine that are always encouraging me and just lifting me up, because they know what God has for me. And when they see me walking in that, they're like, Age, keep going, like go, go, go. And if I didn't have those friendships, I would give up. I would give up on everything that I'm trying to do, because I wouldn't have that affirmation from them to show me what God really wants for me. So in summing up this whole battle for belief, the enemy wants you to believe the wrong things about God. Because if you believe the wrong things about God, you'll believe the wrong things about yourself. And if you believe the wrong things about yourself, you'll start believing the wrong things about other people. And if you start believing the wrong things about other people, you'll never live out your full purpose. And it'll just go full cycle. So you'll keep going around and around and around, just living a life full of lies and never really experiencing true freedom. So I want you guys to be free. And I wasn't going to do this, but I'm just going to say a little prayer for you. If you feel like you're dealing with any of the things that I've mentioned, I just want to pray over you, a prayer of freedom and redemption right now. So God, I thank you for every person that's listening to this podcast right now. And I just pray that you would just open their eyes to see people the way that you see them, to see themselves the way that you see them. and to just reveal yourself to them in a new way, God, so that every belief that they have would be lined up with your word, with your truth, Father, and that you would just start to show them your heart, that they would know what the Father's heart is for themselves and for others. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, guys, I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to this episode. If you've been touched by this podcast, please share this with someone you love. You can share your story with us by sending me a message on social media at Adrianna K. Guadalupe or emailing us at info@adriannaguadalupe.com.